Thought I'd let my mug have the first word. Hello, 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 One World Spiritual Community. Thank you for tuning in wherever you are, whenever you're tuning in. My name is Brian Perry. It is a pleasure and a privilege to be back with you again and endeavoring to be of some use to you, some service to you. As you know, it is always my intention to honor these few minutes you give me to talk with you by giving you something you can start using immediately in your world. My mug, by the way, if you couldn't read that, is a passage from A Course in Miracles. Where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say, and to whom? Yeah, I've been asking that a lot in these times. What is mine to do? Mug, by the way, comes from the Love Bomb Company. Okay. Well, the good news is this should be getting better because I just did the talk and then realized I had forgotten to hit record. So that was fun. So welcome. This month, the theme is storytelling, is honoring that we are our own storytellers, that we are writing the story of our lives. And Reverend Melanie has so beautifully queued that up the last couple weeks. I want to build on what she's been building. And in order to do that, I'm going to back up a little bit and talk to you a little bit about what she said last week, just sort of set the table. And what I'm going to dig into today is going to be more about the how-to, some tools and tips and ways that you can become a better writer of your own narrative, if you will. Let's dig in. Last week, Melanie was referencing an author and minister by the name of Robert Brumet, don't know, one of those two, who was talking about the stages that we go through in times of great transformation. He was suggesting that there are sort of three steps to transformational moments: an end, a void, and a new beginning, as I understood it. The end, of course, is the falling away, is the death, is the what have you. The diagnosis is the end of what was. The void was the part that really gut punched me last week, really resonated with me. The void is this space where you're grieving and conscious that what was has fallen away, but you don't know what's next. You feel directionless and lost, and a loss of a sense of purpose, a loss of a sense of identity, as you don't know where you're going and what it looks like to continue moving on. Yeah, that's what I've been feeling of late. I'm very clear that what was is over. I was clear about that in the beginning because of other experiences that I've had in my life. Intellectually, I got, what my life as I knew it was over. But now I'm really starting to feel that. And as I've been feeling that more and more and living into that more and more, I've been in this void period, particularly in the last few weeks, just feeling just absolutely lost. I think that's appropriate. I think that's kind of how it works. Last time I was here, virtually, I mentioned that early on in this, I was hearing from a lot of people that I knew that were saying some version of, I'm just ready to get back to my life. To which I was replying, your life didn't stop. I mean, I know I went up playing semantics. I know what they meant, but your life is still happening. There's just been a plot twist. As it turns out, that would have been a great talk for this month. But nevertheless, that's what I was saying, is that your life didn't stop. There's just been a plot twist in your life. But boy, howdy does it keep twisting and twisting and twisting. There are a lot of plot twists in this book. There are a lot of plot twists. It's a lot that we're dealing with. The Bishop T.D. Jakes, who has a congregation here in the Atlanta area, I saw him on CBS this morning, a few weeks ago. And he was talking about a lot of different things, but one of the things he was talking about was trying to give us perspective about what we're going through and the impact it's having on us. He was saying we're living through what amount to 3 pandemics at once, simultaneously. Any one of these pandemics, any one of them, would turn the world sideways on its own. We got 3. We've got a health pandemic. A health pandemic that is decidedly still ongoing and unfolding, that is forcing upon us questions of our character, of our healthcare system, of whether we value profit or people more, of how we take care of one another and ourselves, what kind of foods we put in ourselves. There's so many questions as we grapple with this health pandemic. We've got an economic pandemic. It has many of the same questions, and it's still clearly unfolding and ongoing. And we have a sociological pandemic, is how he termed it. A sociological pandemic that clearly has been going on for hundreds of years, but has reached a new inflection point, has reached a new tipping point, if you will. And so this book that we're living in, this narrative that we're living in, has had twist after twist after twist, and who knows what happens next. Just yesterday, I experienced a microcosm of this. I'm up here at a cabin that my aunt and uncle have, and I'm blessed to visit. And yesterday afternoon, I was watching a late spring, early summer storm. Well, it was a rainstorm is all it was, until it got a little windier and a little heavier. And then it was hailing like crazy. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. For like marble-sized hail for 25 minutes, 20 minutes, something like that. By the time it was done, I am not making this up, I had like 2 to 3 inches of hail stacked up on my car and all up in the woods and everything. Crazy town. In that moment, my brain was like, yeah, no, that seems about right. You know, and then it was beautiful and sunny again. Anyway, our plots keep twisting and twisting and twisting. 2020 is one wily year. So what do we do with that? Well, Reverend Vermette, in what Melanie was sharing last week, calls us to look at our lives in moments of transformation as if everything that came before was a book that somebody else wrote. And after this transformative moment, as we move through it, through the void into what's new, we get to begin to write our story now. That's where we are. There's I have a favorite Will Ferrell movie. Will Ferrell, the comedian, SNL guy. And no, it's not that one. It's not that one either. I'm the kind of person, I tend to love movies with comedians that aren't comedies. And he did this movie with, is it Emma Stone? I think it's Emma Stone. Could be wrong about that. Dustin Hoffman and Queen Latifah, called Stranger Than Fiction. I won't dig too much into the plot, but one of the things that happened in the movie is they offered 2 literary devices, which are really just phrases. One is, little did he know, and the other, and so it came to pass. Little did he know, and so it came to pass. And in the movie, they framed it as, when those phrases emerge, what you're being told is that the character doesn't know, that there are things that are happening that the character doesn't know. Well, it's certainly true that we don't know what new plot twists await us, and we don't know how we'll emerge from these plot twists. We are increasingly clear in communities such as this one that we are being given a moment to write our own narrative, to build our own story that goes after little did he know or she know, and so it came to pass. We are called to indeed dig deeper into what do we want that heroine's experience, that hero's experience to be. I think we're called to this. Imagine a moment like you're talking with a friend you haven't seen in a while, which probably isn't hard to imagine. And you're talking with that friend, you're like, well, what have you been reading? And the friend says, well, I've been reading such and such a book. And your response to it is, oh. And the friend's like, what? Have you read it? You're like, yeah, I've read it. And they're like, is it good? And you're like, yes. Yeah, it's intense. It's really intense. But it's gonna change your life. It's just a transformative book. Keep reading. Keep reading. That's the year we're having, and that's the book I challenge us both to be writing. One of those books where there's a super great payoff that comes from all the plot twists and all the challenges. And we can do that with practice. Everything we're talking about is always with practice. We practice habits that don't serve us over long periods of time. It takes time to practice things that do serve us. So gently now, with practice. Here's where we start. Coffee. No, where we start is consciousness. In communities like this, we lean on consciousness, awareness, cultivating that in our world, right? So that's where you start. But even more basically than that, it's not even as heady as that. You start with doing the things that you know to take care of you, that help you feel more consistently peaceful and calm. Any basic emergency training will tell you, first up, don't panic and don't become part of the problem. So you have to slow it down. Slow it down so you can see what to do next. Don't panic and don't become part of the problem. Slow it down. So what do you know works for you? What are ways that you can be quiet in your life? What are ways, think of it this way. You know, around the holidays sometimes, I've talked about this before at One World. Around the holidays, we can lose touch with ourselves. We can kind of lose touch with the things that serve us well. Abandon them. Not ideal, but that's what happens when we find, and when we look back and we're kind of run ragged and we go, oh, I've been eating like I never eat. I've been drinking like I never drink. I've been not getting the right amount of sleep. I've not been exercising. I've just let go of my meditation. We let go of the things we know to take care of us. So in moments like this, in order to show up to your story better and start writing it more intentionally, first, put your oxygen mask on. Take care of you. Make room for quiet. We know that in spaces of quiet, that's where clarity emerges. Sometimes from contrast and pain, sometimes from relief and release, but clarity nevertheless. So create quiet, create room for meditation, create room for exercise. Eat the things you know work for you. Get the sleep you know works for you. Don't abandon your practices. This is the holidays times 10. So first and foremost, create a space for consciousness. Build from that foundation. I know that's what you're hearing ministers saying and thought leaders saying. Start there. Don't abandon that practice. We need you to keep your oxygen mask on and come from that centered place. Okay, once you've done that, which is a constant process, it's a constant, there's the rhythms of this thing we're living through. If you notice, they're not predictable. So it's a constant process of pull yourself back in when you need to. Up next is listening. Making ourselves, teaching ourselves to be better listeners, to listen more deeply. There's a line who I've never been able to figure out who said it, but it goes like this. True listening is the willingness to be changed. True listening is the willingness to be changed. Cool. What does that look like? It looks like being willing to hear things and feel things that aren't comfortable. It looks like befriending discomfort, befriending pain, befriending uncomfortable conversations, befriending uncomfortable choices, befriending the discomfort so we can be directed to where the comfort is, befriending the discomfort so we can be directed to where the learning is. We make ourselves better listeners, make ourselves deeper listeners. Here's how I've come to understand that. I have a dear friend named Mary Simpson. Mary Simpson is an extraordinary woman. Her work is as an energy healer. In addition to being friends, we had the opportunity to serve together on the editorial board of a magazine called The Conscious Life Journal. The Conscious Life Journal was a journal that was, it was Aquarius-like, but leaned more TED Talky Oprah. And I kidded with Mary one time. So I feel like my role on this board is principally to be the guy in the room that goes, yeah, that's too woo-woo. That's too woo-woo. And she said, yeah, I think you're right. And I'll own this. Look, my tribe is communities like this one, in which there's a real prevalent belief in energy healing and crystals, in astrology, and all kind of different things that are ancient and alternative. And I don't hate on them, but they're a challenge for me. I struggle with them. I have some resistance to it. And so I was talking to Mary about this one night after a service over at Unity North. And I said, I have great respect for you. I have great respect for your work. And I love you as a friend. And she said, yes, I know all those things. And I said, you also know that I'm really, really resistant to what you do. And she said, I do know that as well. And I said, how do I release that resistance? It's come to my attention that this kind of resistance doesn't serve me. How do I release that resistance? And she said, well, predictably, she says, well, do you mind if I do some energy work with you? And I thought, well, I laughed. I said, of course, that was always going to be how this went, wasn't it? And she said, it was. So sure enough, we did some energy work, and she guided me to listening more deeply to my heart space, to my most innermost space. And in that space, she said, I would like you to ask your heart a question. I would like you to ask your heart, what would you have me know about resistance? What would you have me know about resistance? I said, okay. What would you have me know about resistance? And I started to giggle a little bit, and I got a little choked up, and she said, what? And I said, my heart is saying that it's optional. What would you have me know about resistance? I would have you know that it's optional. It's optional. And so I am called, as I strive to listen more deeply with a willingness to be changed, to resist less and welcome more, remembering that resistance is optional, remembering, as I have been so clearly shown in this moment, that certainty is a myth and things are just passing through, that they're not going to stay forever. They cannot. That instead they must be there to offer me something. And so if I can resist less in this moment, I can unlock the gifts I'm being given by the contrast in my life. I've been reading this book by Marie Forleo called Everything is Figure-Outable. And I adore it. I'm not anywhere near through it, but I'm loving it. Everything is Figure-Outable. And it occurred to me, by the way, that I wonder if she had a moment. I know I did. I wrote The Myth of Certainty and Other Great News. And when this all started, I had a moment of going, yikes, I'm the guy who wrote The Myth of Certainty and Other Great News. And then I kind of shifted and went, no, you know what? Yeah. Certainty is a myth, and that is great news. I'll bet you she had similar moments. Everything is figure-outable? Really? Yeah, really. Anyway, I bring her up for this reason. In a chapter she's got that's called Train Your Brain for Growth, she says, your brain is an extraordinary biocomputer, and it's constantly running programs that work either for or against you. That's why I want you to be aware of two destructive thoughts, viruses, if you will. That's what she says, that can pop up when you're learning something new. The trick is to catch these thought viruses and turn them into productive questions. Why? Because the brain is wired to answer questions. No matter what question you ask, your brain will immediately start searching for an answer. When you transform these thoughts into helpful, productive questions, you train your brain to help you learn, grow, and improve. I love this. You take destructive thoughts, painful thoughts, things you're resisting, and turn them into productive questions instead. And I won't leave you hanging. The two she had in mind were, I know this already, and this won't work for me. And she proposes you change that from, I know this already, to, what can I learn from this? Maybe I have heard something similar, but what can I learn from this? I know this already. What can I learn from this? This won't work for me. To, how can this work for me? This won't work for me becomes, how can this work for me? And so she gives us a blueprint as we're befriending discomfort, as we're befriending pain and challenges and the things that are emerging for us right now. She gives us a blueprint to turn that experience, that discomfort, into a productive question that can inform what our characters should do in our story going forward. And this is true also as we look at our lives having been leveled and now being rebuilt. We're being given opportunities to draw in things that served us and turn them up. Draw in things that we now know would serve us, and to eliminate things that no longer serve us, to make new choices for ourselves. Everything from work to relationships to nutrition to our health to so many different things, to the way we treat other people, obviously. And so we're given this opportunity to drill down deeper, listen deeper, by recognizing that these things are just passing through, by recognizing that we have power in the same place we had power before this. And that power is not in the pandemic, any of them. That power is not in the hailstorms passing through. That power is in the only place, you know it's coming, that we have purview. It's in this space, my hula hoop friend. Yes, this is where they lives. This is where you're navigating this new chapter you're writing. This is where you're processing through those things you're resisting, those things that are coming up that are uncomfortable, and turning them into productive questions. And before I wrap up, let me add this. As you're building on a foundation of taking care of yourself, keeping yourself peaceful, calm, as conscious as you can, as you're befriending fear and discomfort, and as you're creating space to listen deeper to your own learning, we also must extend that now. We're given the opportunity in this moment to extend that beyond ourselves and create space for other people to learn and grow too. Well, particularly like in this moment of the sociological pandemic, where we're looking at how do we once, and God willing for all, shed this manufactured construct. It's not built in. It's a manufactured construct that has disadvantaged people, presumably based on the color of their skin, and advantaged others. It's a construct. It's not real. And as we work to shed that and stop inflicting that horror on each other, because it's a wound for each other, it's incumbent upon us to give each other room to do it badly and to learn new lessons, to listen better, educate each other better. You don't know what you don't know until you know. And the measure of your character isn't in the not knowing. The measure of your character is what you do when you know. You don't know until you know. But once you know, what do you do next? And as you're in that moment of learning for yourself, it's incumbent upon you to ask those productive questions that help transform you and educate you. As people are having that experience in front of you, it's incumbent upon us to push through any desire to lash out or judge each other, and instead to listen closer and to ask productive questions and to look for the opportunity to be changed, to listen in that deeper way. Yeah. We don't know what we don't know until we know. That's where the real march is. These marches and such are powerful for a lot of reasons, and important for a lot of reasons. But the real march that's, if you will, that we're called upon now occurs in our own hearts, occurs around our own kitchen and dining room tables, occurs in our own offices, occurs in our own churches. That's where the march really is. That's where the change really takes root. That's where the change really happens, and the only place that it can happen. That's where. And so, as I prepare to leave you to continue writing your story as a better listener and continue to allow yourself to be transformed in this moment as you move through the void and into a new beginning. And allow yourself that transformational experience. I want to leave you with a quote that Melanie didn't get to use last week. So I'm stealing it because I think it's awesome. Lean on your foundation. Befriend discomfort and pain. Turn them into productive questions. Make yourself a deeper listener. A listener who's willing to be changed. And create that space for the people you meet, the people you love. I'm going to read this, and then I'm going to grab my guitar and I'll share one last song with you before I send you on your Sunday. So thank you for listening. Thank you for the privilege of your time. This is from Haruki Murakami, from presumably a book called Kafka on the Shore. I've not read it. This is just a quote that I got from Melanie and I love. And once the storm is over, you won't remember how you made it through, how you managed to survive. You won't even be sure whether the storm is really over. But one thing is certain. When you come out of the storm, you won't be the same person who walked in. That's what the storm is about. You won't be the same person who walked in. That's what the storm is about. And that's what your book is about. Practice gently, but practice. You're a great writer, and this is going to be a great book ahead. I'm going to grab my guitar, but in case you have to sign off now, stay well, be good to you, be good to each other. Thank you so much again. Let me go get Taylor, and we'll get on with it.